Welcome to the July 2nd, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince, streamer of Kingsfield 2.
Both of them.
Yeah, that's actually true. Kingsfield 2 and also actual Kingsfield 2.
Hi, Kingsfield 2. I'm regular Kingsfield 2.
I'm Japanese Kingsfield 2.
So, we are down a man tonight, but that's not going to get us down.
Well...
Okay, yeah, I'm already down. I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, we got a real show for you tonight.
But anyway, we actually have quite a few things that we missed in the last coming weeks, and I kind of wanted to use this week to play a little bit of catch-up. But there's plenty of new stuff to talk about, too. But a lot of this stuff isn't super time-sensitive because like it was announced but not released, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just wanted to talk about it. But this is really interesting. So the Stardock and Star Control creators have resolved their litigation in a friendly way. Did you hear about this?
Oh, well, what was the problem? Like the use of star or something?
Okay, so here's the deal. They were contending that the original creators of Star Control, and therefore Star Control 2, which is considered by a lot of people to be one of the best games of all time.
Oh no, this thing I think you had told me about. The original creators of Star Control were having a bit of a fight with the creators of the new Star Control.
So yeah, what had happened was the Star Control 2 people who wrote and programmed Star Control 2 and 1, I believe, and then 3 was made by somebody else, you know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, they contended that they owned all of the writing, all of the content of Star Control 1 and 2, but did not own the name. So, and the new company was basically stating, no, we own the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this big back and forth litigation, and they actually resolved the lawsuit by basically saying this, that the existing games can still be sold, 1 through 3, plus the new one. And everybody splits like the funds from the first 3 games.
Okay.
The new game is all Stardocks, or
right.
the new Star Controls.
Yes.
Stardock is the successor from the original creators.
Right.
And what they said was basically this, that the content will remain owned by the people who made Star Control 2, so therefore the sequels cannot have any of the races or anything else like that.
Oh.
But that's okay because you can make a brand new universe full of other kinds of aliens. You know,
you'll just have to not make like a direct sequel to Star Control 2 or something.
Yes. So the Stardock guys are basically saying that the agreement says that they can make a sequel to Star Control 2 that is not called Star Control.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if what the result would be in the first place. Like, if the original Star Control creators have the rights to the content but not the name, I was gonna wonder if that meant you could sell Star Control 1, 2, and 3, but you'd have to like call them like Space Game or something weird like that.
No. It worked out in the best possible way. They basically came out with a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
All the sides are happy. Everybody can create their own game and their own sequels, which is really great. And the best part about it is that one of them is I think the owner of the Star Control series, which is, you know, the newer games, is an apiarist, and one of the he keeps bees. One of the stipulations is that he has to give the Stardock employees a bunch of their honey, and they have to make mead for him.
That's amazing.
Yes.
He wanted to hold birds, but his fingers slipped on the keyboard and Now, like,
Aviary.
V's right
No, it's
next
an
to B. I'm
aviary.
sorry, buddy.
No, but
Oh no, it's a P.
no, it
Never mind.
isn't.
My joke fails. My joke's ruined. It was bullshit.
It was never good.
Yep.
But yeah. So I just thought that was cool that they could make each other. Not only are they coming to a gentleman's agreement, but they legally have to. Like the other has to make mead for them and supply the honey for it.
That's kind of fantastic.
So that's really cool, and everybody wins. I mean, all the consumers get 2 series out of it. That could potentially be good. So at least one of them will probably be good. So it's really neat. Is my point. So I wanted to talk about that. Plus, I also wanted to talk about Disaster Report 4. We mentioned this in passing, in our private chats over the last couple weeks, but I really have to just exalt that this is a reality.
Yeah, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, so I'll go over the story here, but essentially, this was IREM's AAA title that they were going to come out with.
Before you even get that far, what is Disaster Report?
Okay, so Disaster Report is a series of 3 games at that point. 1 and 2 were known as Disaster Report was the first one, and the second one was called Raw Danger, and they were on PS2.
Did America get both of them? I thought we might have only gotten one. We did get
got them both. Okay. Yes, we got them both. We did not get the third one. The third one was a PSP exclusive, and it never got translated.
Okay.
But so, and they were games that were cult hits. They were well loved by people who knew what they were, but they looked kind of goofy to people, probably because of bad localization and bad title. The cover art doesn't. Yeah, I was gonna say the
cover art. The cover art looks like PS1. Like, I don't mean PS1 graphics, but I mean like what you might see on a westernized version of a PS1 game. Like, my first thought was Mobile Light Force. Like, it doesn't look even close to what the game is. Disaster Report's cover looks kind of like what the game is supposed to be, but there is no way that that's what the Japanese cover looks like.
Yeah, Raw Danger especially looks really goofy.
Yes.
And in particular, it's kind of a little disrespectful too, and I'll go over why. So these games were meant to be kind of somber games. Yeah. They were meant to be tell a slice of life story about somebody who was surviving a natural disaster in Tokyo, or Japan in general, I guess. So each of them has a different scenario, like an earthquake or a bad storm, a hurricane, or something like that. And you're supposed to escape and also kind of. There are love scenarios and things like that too, for rescuing somebody else and that kind of thing. But it's supposed to be, kind of sobering, but it's supposed to be a dramatic experience.
Yeah,
and just to have kind of in your face, kind of quakes happening kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the cover art does look pretty cartoony. It's very exaggerated, whoa kind of faces. It's a little misleading. Well, it's very misleading.
So flash forward to when they were going to release the fourth one. This was supposed to be Irem is an old video game developer from back in the early 80s. They made a lot of early arcade games. Some of my favorite games are Irem games. I mean, they're most known for the R-Type series. Mm-hmm. But they also had a lot of hits on the NES. They had Metal Storm and Kickle Cubicle. There were even a few other hits that people really liked, like Scoon, their submarine trilogy. They had Sub Rebellion, which was a cult hit on the PS2. They even made the what is that submarine shmup? I forget what it was called.
I have no idea.
Super
Mario Land.
You're not wrong. I wish you were, but you're not wrong. Anyway, Either way,
They made a bunch of stuff.
they made a lot of really cool games over the years, and stuff that a lot of the stuff that a lot of that staff turned into what made the Metal Slug series later. So it's, they made a lot of really cool stuff, but they had kind of gotten to the point where they were only making one major project at a time, but they were still making 3D stuff, so it wasn't like they were dying out, as it were. So I and a lot of other fans really loved them, and so they sunk all their money into the fourth entry into the series, which was supposed to be their crowning achievement. It was supposed to be the biggest.
Appropriate
Oof.
term for this.
Oof. But yeah, they really put as much money as they could into this game because it was going to be like their most complex game.
Yeah, what was it going to be? PS3?
It was going to be a PS3 game.
Okay.
Yes. So what ends up happening is the Fukushima tsunami happens. In the Hunt. I'm sorry. In the Hunt is the submarine game. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But anyway, the tsunami happens, and the disaster at the nuclear plant happens, and so many people died, and I think it was thousands of people ended up dying, and just like the ecological fallout was terrible. It destroyed towns, and it just was an awful, awful, awful event. And even the nuclear plant is still affecting the Earth right now, and it was a really, really terrible event. What was going on at that time is the fourth game was supposed to release that week. That happened. It was gold. It was a done game. It wasn't like they were in the middle of it or anything. And what ends up happening, and the scenario, I believe, was coincidentally,
was a tsunami. Yeah, so you can't really
coincidentally
say...
was a tsunami. So they had to, in order to be cognizant of the seriousness of the event, and also to be humble towards it, they had to cancel that game, and the company went bankrupt. And that's why you hadn't seen so many things from Irem for so long. You might have seen like remakes of their stuff or re-releases, for their holding company. But this is a truly amazing thing that they actually, got to go back and add stuff and increase the graphical fidelity and actually bring it to the US as well.
Yeah, on the PS4 and the Switch.
For the PS4 and the Switch. So the graphics will still look a little dated, because they were meant for the PS3, and even so they're like low poly because of the enormity of the things that you're dealing with in the game. Like everything's supposed to be big. It's supposed to show scale.
Well, that's the thing. Like these disaster report games, they're not gonna look like Uncharted 3 PS3 either.
No.
Like Uncharted 1 PS3.
There's a lot of emphasis on the skyscrapers and things like that, and the enormity of the waves and things like that. So the characters are going to be relatively simple. But the environments are really what's key, and what you go through in the game and what you can do in the game. So this is a real treat. This is like one of those crowning triumphs. Like, oh man, I wish that would have been released selfishly. Of course, I want to be cognizant of the losses that people had during that disaster, but I want to play the game because it was it had nothing to do with that.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was expecting a delay, not like a moratorium, and then years go by.
Well, I mean, you also got to remember this, that that was as big as something like 9/11. You know what I mean? Not that you would release a game like there were plenty of games that were altered or canceled because of 9/11. I was just going to mention
Metal Gear Solid 2.
They had like there was a Stunt Copter. Stunt Copter was a Dreamcast game that got canceled entirely. There's a lot of fallout from what happened there. But this is something that is even worse to some degree because there's no human involvement. It's just we're at the mercy of it. You
And
know
there are
what I mean?
far more fatalities.
Exactly. And happens completely by surprise without warning. Nothing you could do about it. And it just stinks. But I'm just glad that we live in a world where it can be re-released, and everybody's hard work on this game can be enjoyed by everybody, and we're getting a U.S. release of it at that. So very very excited for that. I wanted to bring that up because it's just one of those really cool things that happened. A lost complete game. It's kind of like finding Hemingway's lost notebook from that train ride. Have you ever heard of that?
I may have.
He wrote an entire novel while on a train
Oh,
and then forgot the notebook on it, and
ugh.
just that was it.
Well,
Like, yeah, exactly. He didn't want to try to rewrite it because that's how he wrote it,
yeah.
and he'll never write it the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things. So anyway, let's see here. There's plenty of cool stuff here. There's also IREM. Another IREM title is being re-released as X Multiply, which is one of their best shmups. Is getting a port to the Switch, and probably later PS4, I would imagine, because all the Hamster arcade archives, just like this, are going to both platforms. So this one's a really cool one. It's very similar to R-Type, I would say. It has like a way that you can manipulate the things around your ship, and it also has a lot of cool body horror kind of stuff going on. So
Yeah, it
that's
really is
that's a cool
bizarre,
one.
like, how often something like that can happen. Like, Gradius did it. Obviously, I mean, I say obviously, but, like, I don't know how many people know about this, but, like, Apodox's first level is all just completely fucked up.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of playing off of each other, obviously, and also there were a couple movies at that time about spaceships that were entering human cavities, like inner space.
Oh, sure.
So that was an idea floating around. It wasn't just
Yeah.
out of nowhere. But this is pretty cool. It hasn't gotten very many ports, if a port at all. So very excited that this is happening. Let's see here. This is another blast from the past. The Samurai Showdown game for PS4 is out
Yeah, I'm quite
as
happy
well.
about that. I mean, like, I'll wait before picking it up because, like, I'm not gonna buy a fighting game for $60. But I'm pretty excited to see a new Samurai Showdown. We haven't seen one since, like, the PS2 era.
Yeah, and not only that, but apparently all early all early accounts of it are positive.
Great. Oh,
So
actually, wait. Wasn't there, like, a weird, like, unconventional, like, run around 3D game for, like, the 360 or something?
yeah, there have been 3D titles.
All right. I guess like a traditional Samurai Showdown then, since the PS2 era. I should correct
Well,
myself.
this is a 2.5D game,
Sure.
3D graphics with 2D gameplay, which is the way it should be. That's the way modern any of the games that started off 2D should continue to be 2D gameplay, if you ask me. And all the ones that were 3D can stay 3D. It's just if you want to make a 3D franchise, make a 3D franchise, but you're always going to have, like, all the 2D games are based off of 2D mechanics.
Yeah.
Like throwing a Hadouken is a 2D mechanic. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's why something like
Projectiles.
Mortal Kombat 4 felt weird. It was just like fireball and you just sidestep it. It's like, oh.
And you know what the least popular mainline Mortal Kombat is?
Yeah,
Mortal
right.
Kombat 4. Come on. So I'd rather be playing Biofreaks, but
Oh my god. Hey everybody, remember Biofreaks?
nope.
Hey everybody, remember Mace
Mace.
the Dark Age?
Mace. there's a bunch of them. War Gods. Yeah.
I kind of like War Gods, but that's because that was
Fighter's
my
Destiny.
first experience with it. Like
Fighter's
with 3D
Destiny.
games. I never tried Fighter's Destiny. Well, I haven't tried Biofreaks or freaking Mace either. So.
Yeah, go back to the N64 and play all of the fighting games.
Yes.
That's the system
I can't wait
for
to
it.
play the Xena Warrior Princess fighting game. Was that on N64 or PS1? Who cares?
I don't think it was a fighting game, was it?
Oh, it was.
Oh,
Well, I think there was a traditional adventure one, but there was a fighting game. I think
Okay.
I think it was PS1 actually.
Does it have Kevin Sorbo in it? Please hope. I hope not.
I'm gonna I don't know, but I doubt it because he would be like a cameo at best.
God, I hope not. Anyway, but yeah, apparently all the old fans really love it. It's a deliberate game, like it should be, which is another thing you got to worry about. If they're going to interpret what people like about the series.
Yeah, Samurai Showdown, an important thing to know is that for a fighting game, it's quite slow. Like, it's very slow, hits do a lot of damage, and depending which Samurai Showdown it is, you could just potentially insta-kill somebody.
Yeah, and also the consensus is that it seems to have its own flavor. It doesn't try to be one of the old games. It tries to be itself, which is always welcome, and it's good. So that's great.
Can we still play as Thomas Jefferson?
It was Andrew Jackson.
I guess that would make more sense.
But yes, you are correct. There was a president named Andy. I think he was just called Andy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but he's very clearly Andrew Jackson. Like, if you hold up a $20 bill to him,
be
like, okay.
Remember that time he won a duel after fucking letting the other guy shoot first?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Alexander, you know about Alexander Hamilton, right? He just didn't. He shot up in the air, knowing that if the other guy, if Aaron Burr were to shoot him and kill him, he would be ruined politically.
Yeah.
And he was, and the guy died in order to do that to him.
Yeah, that is a power move.
It's just like, no, fuck you.
Yeah. Like, that's incredible.
It's like, you may have killed me, but I won.
Yeah, that is true. That seriously is one of those, like, dramatic movie scenes, like, I die, but my spirit lives on, or that kind of thing.
But the soul still burns.
A tale of guns and all their guns, eternally retold.
But anyway, so I'm really excited about this. The last SNK fighter was not really considered very great.
Which one was
the
that?
SNK Heroines.
Oh yeah, that was like a decent fighting game that was just like all the girls wearing cutesy clothing. That's it.
You like Terry Bogard. Well, what if he had boobs?
I gotta admit, that took me by surprise. That was kind of funny.
It is kind of funny.
But before that, it was KOF 14, which I believe was quite well liked.
No. The KOF game, the last KOF game is considered to be a great game.
I love I think he's the boss of the game, the guy who's chomping down a giant cigar, and like, if he's wearing this giant belt buckle, and or this giant belt, and he pops open the buckle. There's like another cigar inside, pulls it out, lights it. It's like, yes.
Well, I'm just glad that SNK is still making stuff, and it's good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm always excited because, they can't afford to have a bad game. Or a game that doesn't sell well, or as well as they want it to, because they're a very small team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like they used to be, like one of the major fighting game companies. Like they're not Capcom. They're not NetherRealm. So they're not even Team Ninja, right? So they kind of have to do their own thing, and they have to be good at it. And it looks like they're doing it. I'm very happy for them, selfishly. So that's cool. That just means we'll get more SNK games in the future, hopefully.
Yep.
And I expect this one to be at EVO because there's nothing else like it. The next time around, because Samurai Showdown doesn't really have an analog. There's nothing else. So it's its own thing, and people like it.
I would love to see like upper tier Samurai Showdown gameplay.
Yeah, I think they've kind of taken the approach where they're kind of combining the feel of Samurai Showdown and Last Blade, which kind of used to be Divergent.
Last Blade.
Divergent. They were their two samurai series.
How many of those are there? 2 or 3?
There's 2 of them.
Okay.
No, there's only one Last Blade.
Final Fantasy, there's only one. No, but I remember in Capcom versus SNK 2, there would just be like really like weird fighters, like Maki from fucking Final Fight
Final
2.
Fight 2.
They would
Yeah.
have like only Kyosuke from rival schools. He's not even the main character. They had
Yeah.
Hibiki. I never even heard of Last
Well, even
Blade.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 had Jin. Like, who the fuck is Jin?
That's true too. Like Hibiki, what's Hibiki from? Last
Yeah.
Blade. Oh, that game no one could play. Cool, thanks. And they can now.
It was a
but-
Dreamcast game. At the time, it was locked to Dreamcast.
Oh, I didn't even
basically.
realize that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like arcade only or something.
Well, yeah, and Dreamcast.
I didn't even know it got ported to Dreamcast. I mean, now you
Yeah.
can play it on Steam and GOG, I think, but
Switch.
on Switch
You can
too?
play it on
Nice.
anything.
Very nice.
A PS4.
Okay.
Yep. You could play it on anything.
Cool.
Plenty of other cool stuff out. Judgment was just released last week, or Judge Eyes if you're Japanese.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. I actually picked that one up. I usually like there are most games I buy I wait to buy, but like the Yakuza games, there always seems to be like just one copy on like every shelf I see. So I'm like, I'll get it.
There are certain things where I'm like, I can't wait for this, or else I might not find
Yeah,
it.
and
You know,
the
that
thing
kind of
is
thing.
though, like months later, there still is one copy. Like you
Yeah.
know, like there always seems to be another copy, but still, I'm picking up Judgment.
But invariably, when you go to look for it, you can't find it.
I know. So I picked up
That's the
Judgment a
thing.
few days ago, so like I might not get to it immediately, but it's secured.
Yeah, I ordered it as well. I got my free sticker, which I'm very happy about.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that.
It comes with a free sticker inside the box. So
So I
probably
might
it.
have one from the
Yeah.
store. Who knows?
And it has reversible cover art, so
That's pretty cool. You know, I really like. I mean, it's been a thing for a little while now, but I really do like that reversible cover art's a thing.
Yeah, I like what they did with the Fist of the North Star Yakuza game.
Oh my god! Because
with
I
the
just get so
Baron-san
disappointed
cover.
for so many games when the inside art is just like the controls because there's no manual
Yeah.
or it's just blank. It's like you gotta be kidding me with this. Like nothing. So the reversible art's pretty nice. Even if it's the same art but without like the text on the back or something, you know, it's something.
The same art. But anyway, Mario Maker 2 also came out for the Switch. I also picked that up. Nintendo games I usually pick up because unless they sell really poorly, they don't go down in price anyway.
No, Hyrule
So-
Warriors is still fucking full price. Like,
Yeah,
are you
of course it
kidding
is.
me?
Yeah, only the games that didn't sell well will go down in price. So like the Yoshi game, for instance,
Yeah.
will go down in price. But
Yarn or Woolly World or whatever it was.
yeah, but Craft
Okay,
World,
okay.
yeah, Woolly World actually did well for itself.
All right.
But relatively speaking, for a Wii U game. But anyway, yeah, I picked this game up because I'm a sucker for this type of game. I think a lot of people are really amping up to play it, and I like the first one a lot. I like I said before, I'm not really the type that makes levels because it takes a long time, but I do like experiencing what people put out there, and kind of I like watching people play it too. So like
That's about
during
my
a
only interest, watching other people play it. Because watching
Well-
people play cool levels is just, it's fun to me. But I have zero interest in actually playing it.
See, I really think that somebody like, Old Man Stompy or Minty Mitz would play this at my place, and I would love watching them play it. So that's actually one of my primary interests for getting it. I love it and this kind of thing. And there's also plenty of included like already made ones. So
Sure.
I'm all for that as well. And plus, it has like all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it has Super Mario 3D World, which is like you never really expected that to happen
Yeah.
in this game. So it really neat stuff. Let me see here. So Sega announced Soul Seraph. Did you check this out?
Is that one of the Soul games, like Soul Feast and stuff like that?
No.
Because that'd be hilarious.
Not related in the slightest.
Remember the Sega CD? What?
So there's like this weird Brazilian company that has made Xenoclash 2, and the Rock of Ages games. Do you
Sure.
remember those?
Yeah.
They're very odd games, but they're cool. This game is, and every single one of their games is not like the other unless it's one of the sequels.
Sure.
So this appears to be like a spiritual successor to the original ActRaiser.
All right.
like in every way, like the action mode and the strategy mode.
So it's like Volgar the Viking is to that like Sega Master System game,
A Rastan?
Rastan.
Yeah, well, that's an arcade game, but that's basically what it is.
Sure.
But it looks like it's going to be a spiritual successor to ActRaiser. Like it's going to have town building elements, and it's going to have like a Castlevania-ish like 2D
Yeah, what a
action
bizarre
game.
concept in the first place, by the way. That game was ahead
Yeah,
of its time.
yeah. So the second game is all action and terrible.
It looks hard as hell.
It's hard as balls. Good luck getting past the first level of the second
Like I
game.
watched the GDQ. I watched like a GDQ run of that game like a couple years ago. Man, that thing is no joke.
It is literally one of the most disappointing sequels that I've ever encountered. And like every once in a while, I go back and try it. It's like candy corn. It's just like, oh, corn that tastes like candy,
I
right?
can't wait.
I
Son
can't
of a
wait.
bitch.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, ActRaiser 2. I love ActRaiser.
Yeah, I
More
remember ActRaiser
ActRaiser, you
1.
say? Oh, fuck. But this is really cool. And it's made by an offbeat company. It's an offbeat type game, so I'm looking forward to it. It's made by Team Ace, if you're wondering. And this one's near and dear to your heart. A From Software classic made reality. Metal Wolf Chaos XD is getting a release date later this week. Probably.
Yeah, I can only imagine what the release date will be.
I mean,
I can only imagine when they're going to announce it.
it'll probably either be as of this, as we are releasing, or by Thursday.
Like,
So
how could it, like, considering, like, it's a FromSoft game, but, like, really brief context, you're the president defending the White House, like, the cover art of the game has an American flag all over it, at least with the special edition on the Xbox. There is no possible way this game is going to be announced at any time other than, like, July 3rd or 4th. Like, how could it possibly not?
oh, I didn't even think about that.
Well,
Good
that's the whole
thought.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
Devolve, like, everyone was like, Devolver, you announced Metal Wolf Chaos last year's E3. How are you not announcing it at this year's E3? They're like, oh, announcement's coming. And then this week, they're like, oh, it's gonna, like, the announcement's gonna happen this week. Like,
They might even
it's
just
fucking
plop it
July
out on
4th,
Steam.
unless they're actively trolling us, because Devolver is the company that would
They
do
would.
that. But, like, it's gotta be fucking July 4th.
Well, they might just plop it on Steam on July 4th if that's the case.
I wouldn't
I
be
didn't
surprised.
even think about
But
that.
I'm
Yeah.
personally, I'm waiting for the Special Reserve Games Collector's Edition, because I really, really want a physical of that game.
Welcome to the White House.
That is the funniest thing. When you
It's
first
so
showed me that,
good.
I'm like, there's no way this is real right now.
Yeah, this was like a. I was really into imports way back in the day, much more so than now because you don't really need to import much anymore. To
Not
to be
really.
honest, we get pretty much everything.
Yeah, the only stuff you import is, like, if you're a retro collector now.
Yeah,
Or if you're obsessed with physical and they didn't give you a physical version, but you do a digital or some weird shenanigans like that.
well, every action game that I can think of has made it over. Like the only thing that I would want to come over that hasn't would be an RPG, and I wouldn't import that. So
Yeah, the only games I want to be localized, because, like, again, they haven't been translated, so I can't really import them. But the games that I really want localized are, yeah, like you said, not really action games.
Yeah.
I want Valkyria Chronicles 3, which does have a fan translation, but I would like
Sure.
an import of that.
Sure.
Valkyria Chronicles 3, and I'm the only one who fucking wants this, but the Kingsfield additional for, like, the PSP, like those.
Oh, I
And
would,
you know what? The Foreign
Shadow
Yakuza.
Tower.
Uh,
There's a
Shadow
Shadow
on
Tower
PS2,
sequel,
on
isn't it?
PS2. I would also like the I mentioned this one before, but the PSP, PS3, and PS4 Yakuza games that we didn't get.
Oh, you know what? They said something about a possible Kiwami happening for the first one, the first Kenzan. I think
Oh, no kid-
the first one's Kenzan, right? And the second one is
Well,
a
Kenzan PSP and, like, Ishin was PS3.
no. PSP was the Panther games, wasn't
Oh,
it?
excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah,
Kenshan
yeah.
and, like, Ishin.
Yeah, that's it. Ken-san was the one that I really wish we could have gotten because, but apparently it's getting the Kiwami treatment, and if it does, it's coming out here. I guarantee it.
I hope so. That would be amazing.
No, I think they have really embraced that studio in particular, and Sega along with it has really embraced global distribution and
Yeah.
Steam
Yeah, that's
for that
amazing.
matter.
The only thing I'm gonna miss is that Kiwami 1 and 2 of Yakuza, like, there were differences from the original game, and Kiwami 1 even kind of had, like, callbacks to the original Yakuza, so, like, I'm wondering what I'll be missing with Kiwami Kenzan, but it would still be really freaking cool to get Kenzan regardless.
Yeah. I think it was just like one of those early PS3 games that he kind of wishes that he could have added more stuff to,
Oh, sure.
that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So let me see here. This is pretty neat for all of you big people that were big into the Dreamcast. The last few official releases for the Dreamcast were a bunch of shmups that were made by a single company. There was Radirji, which is a it's a portmanteau of radio allergy.
Wow.
Carouse, and there's one which means crows, and one other game. They were all made by a company called Milestone. These were re-released on the Wii as well, but and some of them were released on GameCube as well. So it's kind of they kind of have a history of being at on shmup lover systems. Apparently, they are making a Radirji Swag, which is a brand new entry in that series. Radirji was like probably their most popular game, so that's coming out on Switch. I'm not a big fan of the Milestone shmups. There are some people that will play any shmup, regardless of quality. Um, I don't like them very much, but I will be willing to give it a shot if it has good reviews. But it's cool to see that it's coming. Let me see here. Just real quick. Dry Bowser, it was announced as coming to Mario Tennis Aces. Man, this game has some long legs.
What an amusing just character concept.
Yeah, I mean he shows up basically when you drop him into the lava
Yeah.
in New Super Mario Brothers, and that's basically it.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. But this is a game that Nintendo kept adding to, which is really neat. I love the concept of continuous free DLC
Yep.
just to reward the fans for buying it, which is really neat. Um, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some limited run games releases coming up that have just happened, because I know that you were following them during E3 and we didn't really get a chance to talk about them.
Oh yeah, I mean, real quick, I'm not going to go into like 100 different releases, but one thing I will say is that you may remember from a long time ago at this point, many podcasts back, I had mentioned that they were releasing the Jack and Daxter trilogy.
Oh yeah,
And, like, if you like Jack and Daxter, good for you, but the point was that they teamed up with a company as big as Naughty Dog. So that was really kind of what the news was. And if you like Jack and Daxter, then, like, even better for you. But, the big
a lot of people really love those games.
Oh, yeah.
They were like a big part of their childhood.
And their collector's editions, by the way. They were super expensive, but their collector's editions are, like, insane. Like,
The first one is really impressive from what I
well,
saw. It
all
looks
three,
like
I think, are basically that. Like,
Oh, okay.
So, like, it's crazy. But, the big news this time at E3 was that they actually teamed up with LucasArts, and they're going to be releasing a bunch of Star Wars games, which is incredible.
Yeah, and not just for modern systems, for old ones
That's
too,
the weird
right?
thing. Yeah, like a lot of what they've been doing is releasing like PS4 remasters of PS2 games, which have already existed, but physical, like Psychonauts. You want it on PS4, a physical copy? Here you go, like that kind of thing.
Sure.
But they're releasing like a Star Wars Game Boy game on a Game Boy cart, like that you could play on a Game Boy, like classic
Yeah.
Game Boy. That's amazing. The part that really got me though, I think this is a first for America, an official Japanese Nintendo Star Wars with like Scorpion Darth Vader, that janky game that has.
No, that's actually where you're wrong.
Oh, there
Um,
was an American
it
Star Wars then.
so there is an American made one made by or published by JVC back in the day.
That's kind of a shame, but on a Nintendo
Yeah,
cartridge though.
yeah. So yeah, there were two Nintendo ones. There was the Famicom one made by Namco, which you're referring to,
Yeah, it's
and
the
then the
one. All right.
JVC
Oh
one in the
well.
U.S.
But with
Yeah.
Nintendo Star Wars and Game Boy Star Wars, also they released. Do you remember this one? Do you remember Bounty Hunter on like the GameCube?
Oh, starring Jango Fett.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
that one's, I don't know if it's out of stock yet, but last I checked, today, Monday, the day we're recording this, like it was still available for purchase. I was never like a big Star Wars Bounty Hunter fan, but like if you're into that, there you go. The thing that I think I'm most excited for though is they're gonna do Shadows of the Empire, and that's gonna be mind blowing because there are only two ways to play that game. One on the Nintendo 64, which actually played pretty well, but it was a watered down version of the PC release
Yeah.
because between levels you would have still images for what passed as cutscenes, whereas on PC they were FMV voice acted scenes, and the graphics were a little better on PC anyway. The problem with the PC version is the controls because there was something weird with the mouse that I couldn't stand. I forgot if it was to like it was something weird like moving forward or like you had to
Oh,
slide the
like it was
mouse
like
forward and back.
a joystick control almost.
Yeah, but with the mouse, it was really obnoxious to play. So like,
Yeah, wow.
now when they release this on like PS4 or whatever they're releasing it on, I don't know if it'll be the N64 version or PC. I hope the God is PC because the PC version with a real comfortable way to play it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, like Shadows of the Empire. If you play the game today, it's like okay, like I could see why people might have liked it. I don't know why they loved it though. It's not that memorable, but the thing you have to remember is that this was the first Star Wars game with full 3D where you take down the AT-AT walkers with a harpoon and tow cable like in the Battle of Hoth. That was the first level of the game, and it was so damn good that like every freaking Star Wars game it seems after that one had to have some kind of excuse to like implement that in one of their levels. It was so good. They were like, we're doing that forever. Like Rogue Squadron, Rogue Leader, like it was just too cool not to do.
Yeah, I remember that being such an iconic part of that game. Like, it was part of the reason why you played it, and
Yeah.
people
And it's,
would
again,
go
it's the
back
first
to it
level. You
just to
turn it on,
play
you're just
it.
doing it.
People would go back to it just to play that.
Yeah, and
Um,
the space levels were pretty cool too, honestly. Where you're taking down TIE fighters.
oh, the
It felt pretty
Skyhook,
good.
Skyhook level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that was really
fun.
good.
And the
Yeah.
bosses were pretty interesting too. You actually get to fight Boba Fett and then his freaking slave one, and you're just on foot. Speaking of which, the first proper boss of the game is an
Oh,
ATST.
IG-88 as well too, right?
He's in there.
Yeah.
ATST, and you're on foot.
Oh
IG-88.
yeah.
This is something I never realized because like it took me a very long time to realize that there was a PC release of this game. But like, because I remember seeing like the IG-88 fight, and someone said like remembered like in the comments section on YouTube was like, oh man, I remember this guy. His voice scared me. I was like, his voice, and then I looked up the cutscene. I was like, oh shit, cutscenes are a thing in this game.
Wow.
The land speeder level was pretty cool. We have to race everyone back to Luke's place. Like there were a lot of
Oh yeah, the swoop bikes.
yeah, the swoop
I remember
bikes.
fighting the
Yes.
swoop
It
bikes.
was a swoop because like there are a bunch of like basically every Star Wars game after Shadows did it better, but Shadows did it first, and it's again it doesn't hold up perfectly, but it's still playable. Like it's a solid Star Wars game. It really is, and Dash Rendar is kind of badass.
I think it's just one of those games that like people that played it back in the day are going to enjoy, but I have a hard time believing
Yeah,
that
if you're playing
people that are new
Battlefront
to
2
it.
and like you're like, oh, what Shadows of the Empire? Like you're probably not gonna like it very much. But like if you played it back in the day, like you're like, oh, sweet. Like I don't need an N64 for this. Although, again though, like it is on GOG, but that mouse control is just terrible.
Yeah, once again, this is another one of those instances where like Disney is being awfully kind about the
Yeah.
distribution of their old IP. Like, I can't think of too many games where they've like except for like you know what, a lot of the Capcom like Super Nintendo games haven't been re-released, but almost everything else has been
Yeah.
re-released in some form or another.
But by the way, speaking of Disney being generous, I mean, like, this was not limited around games, but I Am 8-Bit had a physical release of Grim Fandango. That was a LucasArts game,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it
There
kicks ass.
there were plenty of LucasArts games that have been re-released, like Day of the Tentacle, like
Yeah,
a
Stephen
lot of
Gogg.
those. The Genesis games that were released on DOS are available on GOG right now. So like Aladdin, Jungle Book, and Lion King,
Oh, yes.
the ones made by Virgin Interactive before
Hmm.
they became Shiny. Um, that's pretty cool, and I think that's a really neat thing that and all of basically every Star Wars game that I can think of has been re-released. I can't think of any that haven't. In fact, at this point,
Yeah, it's like
all in terms of computer games, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
all
that's
of them
true.
have
Yeah,
been.
who saw the Nintendo and Super Nintendo Star Wars games coming?
Yeah, I think even Super Star Wars Trilogy got released on PS4 at some point. So,
That's
um,
pretty rad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, those games are hard as balls, but
Yeah, those are those games you're like, oh, I remember those as I was a kid, and then you like can't beat the first level.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
games are
I mean,
seriously hard. Like those are
the
ridiculous.
you can't even get to the part with the lightsaber.
Yeah, no, for real. Like
Yeah,
those games are brutal.
the levels are really long too. I remember
Yeah,
them being
they
like
actually
super
look quite
super long.
gorgeous, but they will
Oh yeah,
ruin your
great
day.
great music too. Like
Yeah,
great sound design.
yeah,
Okay, let's move on here. I wanted to give you a platform to talk about SGDQ as well.
yeah.
That
SGDQ
was a
recently
major
wrapped
thing.
up. I'm always fun to watch. I watched just about all the runs that I wanted to watch. They did not have an awful games block this year, but they or this summer, but they did have a silly games block. So like the games weren't necessarily bad, but they were goofy. So like
Did they have Stretch Panic?
that's a silly one, but no, they had
Oh, okay.
Trag,
Trag.
TRAG, Tactical Rescue, and something on PS1.
Oh wow. Yeah. Let me look at that.
That was
I
one of
want.
my
I want
favorite
to see.
runs to watch because the commentary was freaking hysterical. And the game looks like just goofy enough that
I
like
think I've
someone like
seen this
me
at
might be
next
willing to pull
level.
through with
Yeah, I
it.
have. I
Yeah,
have.
that's it's interesting,
I
but
might have a copy of this.
that's pretty funny. But
It's known as Hard Edge in
yeah, in
other
Japan,
territories.
yeah, I wonder why the name was changed. But it, like remember how I told you for one of the previous GDQs, like the craziest shit I've ever seen was this one user Zallard who played Mike Tyson's Punch Out and Super Punch Out with a single controller simultaneously.
Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
he pulled off shenanigans almost as crazy. This GDQ. He played two different Punch Out games as separate runs. One of them, he just beat the shit out of Arcade Punch Out, which is
It's a hard ass
unreal.
game.
Like this guy's a living legend, and like the later boxers were like he wasn't losing, but he was getting a little nervous fighting these guys, which is
Because they're
incredible.
hard as shit and they're
Yeah,
meant to take your money.
yeah, like loop 3 or 4 Glass Joe is like legitimately hard, like Glass Joe. But the thing that really got me is he played Wii Punch Out, the regular run, and then the when you're the champion defending the title against the harder versions of the enemies
Speaking
run.
of difficult, Glass Joe, like in his third time around, he gets really difficult.
Well, in Wii Punch Out, there's only 2 times around.
Oh, two the second time,
Yeah, the
yeah.
second time where he wears a helmet. But yeah, you know how like the second time around, all the other fighters have like some sort of improvement about them. Like Bald Bull is the fucking worst. Like you have to like, I think Star Punch him when he recovers from a KO. Otherwise, he'll just not fall down. It's like terrifying. But he beat the first round of fighters and went right to the second round of fighters, beat them, beat the secret fight DK, and dealt with the menus between the fights with a Wiimote, all while blindfolded. And not only did he do that, but he never lost a fight. Like the whole time, I think he got knocked down like 3 times. Like that
Wow.
shit was bananas. Like he, for some of the fights, he had a harder time navigating the menu between fights because he was still blindfolded than the fights themselves. Like he generally has like a pattern for how these things work because there's a surprisingly regular fight algorithm, I guess, from the fighters. But if anything ever goes wrong because he's doing things 100% audio cue, then it's like, oh, now I have to play the game for real while blindfolded. And it's like, oh no. And he pulled
Jesus.
through. and he beat his personal best time by like 6 minutes in front of like 100,000 people watching. It was fucking insane. That was like such a hype run to watch. It was great. Speaking of hype though, two things. One, the last run of GDQ was Chrono Trigger, 100% side quests in under 6 hours, and not only that,
Wow.
yeah, and not only that, but the highest amount of money any GDQ has ever earned, and I think they've been doing this for like 9 years or something, was $2.42 million, which is a ridiculous amount of money to earn in a week from people donating to watch people play video games fast. They shattered that record this time around with a little over $3 million. It was insane. People were like roaring at the
Yeah, I
end of
saw
Chrono
that.
Trigger. Yeah,
That's
it
amazing.
was fantastic.
Hats off to them. I mean,
Yeah.
they've always done really good work, for the charities, but
Oh yeah.
this is like on another level. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't when they started this, they never
When they
expected.
started this, it was like dudes in a room with like a laptop. Like it's amazing how big it's gotten. Where they're renting out like conventions or like hotels or something or convention centers maybe. Like it's gotten
It's become one of the
huge.
biggest cons of the year,
And not
video
only
game
that,
related
but like
cons.
it's not like it's at the same place every year like most cons. Like they move around, which is pretty cool too. So like you could get a chance
And
to
it's
be
twice a
kind of
year.
close to it. Yeah, and it's twice a year. You know how happy I was when they introduced Summer Games Done Quick? Normally it was one per year. Awesome Games Done Quick in January, but now it's January and June. Like that's amazing. Like yes, please. And not only that, but the fact that it's twice a year means they're raising a shit ton of money twice a year. Like that's great. And also back to the runs themselves. It's also just really fun to see runs that you haven't seen at a GDQ before, like Uncharted One or Bomberman Second Attack, like on 64. It's like, oh, I've never seen a speedrunner do this. What was also cool was seeing Dark Souls 1 and 2, all bosses. So Dark Souls 1 was like an hour and a half, and Dark Souls 2, including DLC, 41 bosses in like a little over 2.5 hours, which is
Huh.
just like staggering. This guy, like, there's this one area in Dark Souls 2 in the DLC. It's by far the worst area in the game where you run through like a storm where everything's just white and you can't see shit. And then you finally get to a relatively difficult boss, except there's two of them, and dying costs you like 10 minutes. And this guy just like sleepwalked through that fight. I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, on one hand, it was really satisfying seeing those guys beaten so fast, and on the other hand, I know the speedrunners put literally hundreds of hours into this game, playing it so many times they don't even like have to look, but like, man, I felt inadequate. I like deleted 45 minutes of deaths and retries from my run, and this guy just fucking steamrolls it. I'm like, all right, well,
Wait, you could have let all of your audience believe the movie magic.
yeah, I just told them I deleted footage. Now they'll know. They never would have guessed otherwise. No, guys, I did not beat every single boss on my first try. It's incredible.
you should watch the guy play some Dead Space.
I'm pretty good at video games, you guys. And, well, the funny thing is though, like I'm actually still legitimately beating like Kingsfield, which are like obtuse and really difficult early game.
Well, you're also you're to your credit, you have like a tenacity. Yeah, like
Yeah.
even if you're bad at first, like you like put in such effort in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
That's the funny thing with Kingsfield in particular. Like, I beat the first two Kingsfields. I'm ready for Kingsfield 3. But the thing is, like, in Kingsfield 1 and 2, they would introduce a skeleton, like a single skeleton enemy, relatively early game. Very early game if you go secret area hunting. And they're guarding, like, a chest of some low level item, but you don't have it, so it's still pretty good, like a leather shield. But, like, they will literally one shot you. But in Kingsfield 3, yeah, they'll one shot you. But, like, even the enemies you're supposed to be fighting will like three shot you. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, everything is ridiculous in Kingsfield 3. American Kingsfield 2. And even as far as fighting skeletons, I'm at a point where I can actually take a couple of hits from them, but hitting them is still so like, this shouldn't be how you play video games. Like, I swing, and while my animation of my arm is coming down, I run forward, hope I tap the skeleton, then quickly run backward out of his range. It's like, that's such a... It seems like I'm gaming the game, but it's like that's how you're supposed to play. Like in Kingsfield 1 US, the instruction manual straight up tells you to circle strafe. Like, normally that's something that players are supposed to figure out. Like, oh, the game's broken if I do this. And the manual's like, no, you want to do that. I'm like, all right. So Kingsfield's hard.
Go around in circles and look like a weirdo while you do
play
it.
the game stupid because it's the only way you can play. Like, all right.
I love how like in the original Half-Life there are certain points where you actually have to jump crouch. Like,
oh yeah, I forgot. Because in a lot of games you figure that out and you feel clever, but in Half-Life you're like, no, do it.
No, like straight up in Opposing Force, one of the main expansions of the original game, like you have to do it constantly, or else you can't progress.
You know, that kind of makes me think of Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, because in Donkey Kong Country 1, players figured out that if you roll, your jump is stored, so you could roll off of a ledge and then leap, and it makes a lot of jumps way easier. And in Donkey Kong Country 2, they like designed levels with that in mind. They would have banana trails leading off to nothing, but then arcing suddenly, like, you can roll into this and then jump. Like, the developers are telling you, this is what you're going to do, and this is what we are later going to expect you to do. It's kind of amusing how that worked out.
Yeah. It's it's just craziness.
Yep.
Those Donkey Kong Country games actually got way too ridiculous.
I 100% did all of them. The only thing I didn't do was Donkey Kong Country 3. Like, you know how Donkey Kong Country 1 maximum is 101%, and in 2 it's 102, and in 3 it's 103? 3 has a 105%. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's horseshit. You have to type in a push-button code to play the game on hard mode, because, like, normally you can't select difficulty. So it's a push-button code just to play on hard mode. Hard mode is no continue barrels halfway through the stage.
Oh, fuck that.
So 100% the game that way. So that's a pain in the ass. I did not bother with that. I got all the secrets, it's fine.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, those games are so ridiculous. Like, they're way more ridiculous than they have to be.
1 has some shenanigans. There's a secret room within a secret room. How are you figuring that out? Like, how are you figuring that out? Like, you don't have an exclamation point in that one level. What could I possibly be missing?
Wow. That's nutty.
Yep.
But anyway, any more cool things from SGDQ?
I mean, there's a bunch of cool things. I mean, really, just go to, just look up Games Done Quick on YouTube or something. Look up the VODs, and there's like so many runs that you could look up that are just fun to watch. There was a cool Sonic 3D Blast run on Genesis. I don't think I've ever seen that speed run before. They did Command and Conquer, like Red Alert 3, which, by the way, that game, people paid for a donation incentive to, like, just watch the cutscenes between levels. Those are the best. Have you seen those?
No.
Oh my god. It's a star-studded celebrity cast, and everyone's acting is cheese. It is so good. Like, you might have seen the Tim Curry one. There was a Tim Curry scene that we didn't see, because I think it's if you play the American side or whatever, but the runners are playing the Soviet side. But there's a scene where Tim Curry is like this Russian general, and his Russian accent is like not perfect. And but there's a scene where, like, there's like the best scene in the game where he's like,
he did not make that for you.
Yeah. No, there's this golden scene though where he's like, you may have beaten me, Commander, but I will go to the one place that is uncorrupted by capitalism. And then, like, he waits for the big reveal of where it's going to be, but he is very clearly, visibly, like, trying to restrain laughter. Like, you see him, like, his mouth is twitching, like, multiple times. It's like, I will go to the one place uncorrupted by capitalism. Space! It's like, what the fuck? Like,
wow,
it's so,
I wasn't too far off.
It's amazing. Also, J.K. Simmons is the American president, and, like, it's so hammy.
Why?
He's like, you know, my fellow Americans, we have to do what we can to stop these godless communists. It's like, what? Like, it's goofy as shit. Like, everyone's acting is purposefully just silly. It looks like everyone's having a fun time. It's just so fucking dumb. Like, come for the Warcraft, StarCraft gameplay. stay for the hilarious movies and voice acting. It's just the best, and it's all like live action FMV. It's amazing. So it's a treat to watch.
This is amazing.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. Well, I think we have a good show here put together. What do you think? Do you have any additional things that we need to go over for Reactive this week?
Not off the top of my head, honestly. I unless I'm forgetting something, which I may very well be, I think we're pretty much caught up.
Okay. I just wanted to say a quick thing to follow up one of our earlier casts. I did want to go over the fact that I did watch all of Good Omens.
Yes.
And I really, really loved it. It's
I've heard
very
it's great.
accurate to the book, to the point where you could watch the show and get as good of an experience probably. I think the book is a little on the a little funnier because it just has constant jokes in the prose.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like the narration, like you're not really gonna get that in video.
But I will say that it was a fantastic adaptation. I mean, it helps that the one remaining creator was the showrunner.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna
the
mention
show,
that. It's always helpful when the guy who helped write the book helps write the show.
yeah.
It's
So
just like George R. R. Martin for seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones. Like you could tell that's why, for the most part, they were really dead on.
yeah, and he got to pick the actors that he wanted the characters to be that he envisioned them to be.
Very nice.
Which was really cool. He said he got both of his first choices for Aziraphale and Crawley.
Excellent.
And he's floored with how much people love the series. Like if you follow him on Twitter, he's clearly like enjoying like all of the interactions from the people who have watched the show.
He seems to be a cool guy based on his Twitter posts.
Neil Gaiman is the coolest. He's been the coolest for a long time, and this just goes. It just reinforces that. And because of the popularity of Good Omens, they greenlit a Sandman TV series.
Oh my
which
god!
I am amped. If they allow him to be the showrunner on that, which they got,
Yeah, why would
they
you
damn
not?
well should.
Yeah.
He is like Dream. Like the character even looks like him. Like he's
Nice.
admitted to it, like he's him on his sullen days. Which is pretty cool. It is my favorite comic book. One of my favorite things I've ever read. Probably my favorite thing I've ever read. In fact,
Even more than the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
even more than Battleship Earth.
Battlefield Earth.
No, Battleship Earth. No, Battlefield Earth.
Wow, Battleship Earth. There's a crossover I want to see. 2 shitty movies in one. Thanks. Liam Neeson can't save this movie. John Travolta can't save this movie.
Battleship Earth.
Yep. I saw that in theaters. Battlefield Earth, I mean.
That's.
I did not know what it was. It was not great.
To put it lightly.
It has some killer moments in it that are unintentionally really funny, but
You probably didn't think they were that funny at the time. I bet you.
Not
you
really.
Were,
I was too young. I was just like, John Travolta's delivery is kind of weird. But now when I hear that, like when you were learning to spell your name, like I'm like, that's how did they let that go?
you weren't at this point where you can enjoy something ironically, and usually when you watch something and you're not told to watch it, ironically,
you don't
like
know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't. You're just taking it for face value.
Not only did you have enough time to mine the gold, you also smelt it into bricks. Like his delivery is so over the top. It almost makes me like the movie. Not enough to save it. It's fucking like 2.5 hours, but his parts are funny.
But yeah, don't watch that.
Don't
watch Good
that.
Omens.
Watch
Good Omens. Watch Good Omens. I mean, I've enjoyed that book in several different forms. I've read the book a couple times. I've listened to the audiobook. and watch the show now, and every single way to enjoy it is phenomenal. So I really enjoyed it. My girlfriend enjoyed it. Now she might like some Neil Gaiman stuff. I mean, she had seen Coraline, I think, at one point, but
Yeah, I saw Coraline in theaters. That was a better
yeah,
experience.
I saw that as well. But I think that's the most mainstream thing that of his that's been on. I mean, Neverwhere and no, American Gods was a popular show. I forgot about that,
Oh, that's
but
true. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I'm just so happy. I'm just happy it was done justice. You know, it's one of my favorite books, and it's a good series. So I think we'll call that a show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. If you don't, I don't know how you found out about our show because we are not viral. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. That helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. You'd like that the little break.
Yeah, just enough pause to build up tension and excitement.
Yeah. You don't know what's coming next.
I mean, you do, but
finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and Switch.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting on an exclusive live stream, so I'm doing the insanely popular Juggernaut for PS1. Remember Juggernaut?
Your favorite line from X3.
Remember PS1 Juggernaut though. You guys
I have a copy of it.
Are you serious?
I've never played it, but I have a copy of it.
You would not tolerate it.
You.
I'm not even... Anyway, I mean it's kind of fun to watch, but like playing it is like oof.
What
it's
kind of
more
game is
interesting
it?
now, but anyway, exclusive live stream is what I was trying to say.
Wait, no, Lotus. What kind of game is it?
Horror question mark.
Okay.
Anyway, and exclusive live streams, and selecting upcoming games from the Let's Play, and finally, getting involved in a Discord discussion with me and other patrons. Perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/lotusprince. Made it for lost time.
And you can find Old Man Zombie on all the things he wants to be found on.
Can confirm.
And you can find Pyrojack Frost on all the things he wants to be found on.
Also true.
And you can find Tricologist on the lair of the Caco Squirrel. Squirrel.
It's true, you can.
And you can find Fakafon on Twitter as Lou, at Lou Fakafon.
And his amazing Kadrilla-chan comic book. Or, well, comic book, but webcomic.
Webcomic. And he actually puts out quite a fair amount of content. So he's the only other one of us that does have an active Patreon.
Yeah, and his art is freaking gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, I would definitely support him. Any bit of money that you give him will help him in his artistic endeavors. And artists, especially artists, really need all they can get. They really do. So, all right. Well, we will see you on Thursday for another episode of Corrective.
Until next time, everyone.
Catcha.